Paul, how did you find carnivore?
Well, basically, my wife contracted breast cancer, and we did not want to go through the traditional treatments. I had done enough research on that to know better. And so we ended up going to a uh, special clinic in Reno, Nevada, um, where they did quite an unusual treatment, but highly effective. And that gave her a number of extra years of good quality health. Um, that's not what the interview is about, so I'll continue on without getting into detail. But I'm even if the results in the end were not as good as I'd hoped, I'm it's the best thing in the country that I know of for cancer. Um, but there were two doctors in particular. One was more of a nutritionist, and then one was more the one that had developed this protocol. The nutritionist is the one that got us to um, go on a more of a low carb diet, not really keto. They'd allow rice, they'd allow sweet potatoes, but they said for the duration of the treatments, cut out anything that's grown below ground except for garlic and onions. Those are the heavy sugar ones, and so we basically did that. And I had a friend that had started carnivore, and he's been on carnivore I think 2 years now, and highly successful for him. Um, so that encouraged me. So we went along with the low carb diet as the doctor had suggested, still using vegetables and the likes. Well, about 9 months ago, um, I decided to look into a more low carb keto. And that meant more meat, less vegetables. I started out with cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli. I kept those, cucumber, pretty much everything else vegetable wise, I got rid of. Um, Lots of eggs. And at about the same time, this nutritionist doctor over in Reno, he and I had been discussing the testosterone problem with older men. He was in the business of treating some as well. And he had made this statement similar to if we could find a way to keep men's testosterone levels up, it would be amazing for a lot of people. And I had discussed with him the properties of boron in one visit. And the next visit, he discussed the properties of boron with me and how it helps regulate hormones. And I had gone online, and with the help of my friend, I got onto a protocol of using boron. It's highly controversial. You can hardly find anything on the internet positive on it. Australia has banned it because it cured arthritis. So what boron does, it's a micronutrient that's been farmed out of a lot of our farmland. It takes the calcium out of the soft tissue and puts it back into the bone. You can imagine the positive ramifications of something like that. Well, about a year ago, after I had started the boron, I would have my blood tests so I could get my testosterone cream that I used for supplementation for 20 years. And my testosterone levels started going up. So I cut my cream down. It went up again. So I got off for 3 months and had a blood test done, and my levels were at 475. That's micrograms per deciliter. That's the measurement they use. Well, 20 years ago, I was at 210. So that was more than double. I wasn't quite sure at the time what was doing it. I was dabbling with the carnivore and just, going with some supplements. Well, last November, I had another blood test and my testosterone levels were at 1200. Well, that's on the high side. So the doctor had me go off my supplement for another month, had another blood test, and I hit 715. Now, what's amazing about that is I am 72 years old. 715 is unheard of for a 70-year-old male. My goal is 800. I haven't given up on 800 yet. So the only thing I've changed is my diet. So I started out, I guess what you would call a dirty keto. Some of us can go cold turkey. It took me a while to adjust to the diet and to the lifestyle. And eventually got to the point where I am today, where I had breakfast at 1:30 this afternoon. I wasn't hungry. Breakfast entailed steak and eggs, and I use lots of eggs, lots of hamburger, and steak whenever I can get it. And I found that it's easier for me. I started out with a brisket, and I barbecue my brisket for 8 hours to soften it up. Well, I have graduated to chuck rolls. I don't think I'm going back to the brisket. It's very tasty. It's easy to eat. I feel great. When I was low on testosterone, I was depressed and I didn't know it. I had no energy. Once I got on supplementation, the depression went away, and then I realized I had been depressed. My energy went up. And now that I am off testosterone, I've been off testosterone 3 months, 4 months, nothing's changed. I feel great. I can go hike the hills, up, down, cross country, it doesn't matter. I feel like a 45-year-old right now. And the only thing I changed was the boron and the keto. I will still have a little salad now and then. I will still have a vegetable now and then, but it's the exception more than the rule. I try to keep my carb level around 20. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 30, but 20 is my goal. I don't sit there with a calculator trying to figure out what it is. I'm not 100% carnivore, but I'm seriously considering that at the moment.
Well, congratulations. What is your so you didn't eat breakfast till 1:30 today. So what's your normal pattern of eating? Is it like breakfast and then dinner, or you just have that one meal?
I have 2 meals. Breakfast is between 11 and 1. 1:30 is the outside. It's usually between 11 and 12, 12:30. And then I will have something between 6 and 7. I will mix it up a little bit with some chicken. When I do have chicken, I will make sure I have an avocado, so I have the extra fat that's lacking in the chicken. So I use that. I use butter. I'm going to start using lard. I think that's not lard. beef tallow.
Tallow.
Yeah. I think that's just one step getting me closer to a full carnivore lifestyle. But I'm happy where I'm at too. Um, so yeah, 2 meals a day. I'm starting to eat more. I think I was eating too little, although I didn't know it. Um, my weight's stable at 140. I was edging up towards 155 before I started the keto carnivore diet. So now I'm down to 140. Um, my high school level was 135. So I'm happy with 140. If I go to 135, I'll be happy there too.
Yeah. So I imagine because you're eating this way, and because the testosterone has increased, maybe it's both. Maybe the diet, testosterone, and there's flow-on effects from that. But you must be just feeling so much better. Like you must like waking up better or sleeping better and things like that.
I have a hard time getting 8 hours of sleep, and I wake up so chipper. There's no hope of getting 8 hours. I don't need it anymore. 7.5, sometimes 6.5 hours is all I need, and I do fine.
This is kind of a pretty big change for you as far as just your general feeling of health, say compared to 10 or 20 years ago?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I got on testosterone, I was about 50 years old. And like I say, I feel like a 40, 45-year old. Um, Taking care of my wife while she was sick, I wasn't as active. So I realize now, and I live in the hills. So when I go for a walk, it's either uphill or downhill. And I can handle those hills no problem and not at a slow pace. I can hike right up those hills like nothing. So, yes, it is a big difference.
So, has anyone else noticed this about you? Like, have any friends kind of commented, "Why are you eating like this?" Or "Why do you have so much energy compared to everyone else?"
I have the type of personality that I share it quite well. And I've had to learn that I have to back off. My sister is a dyed in the wool vegetarian, and that's okay. She seems to be doing okay on it, but I won't go there. The the testosterone is not a sex hormone first and foremost. I think many people have that misnomer. Testosterone, first and foremost, is a heart hormone. Second of all, it's a muscle hormone. And somewhere down the line, it is a sex hormone. In between is my attitude and how I feel. With the lab results that I've gotten and the way I feel, um, I'm not going. I'm not going anywhere on this diet. I'm committed to this. I call it a diet. It's a lifestyle. I'm committed to it. I will not lose the ability at my age to get out there, cut my own firewood, mill my own lumber, um, hike all over the hills. I will not trade that for anything. And so you can tell uh, I'm here to stay.
Yeah. So, like, just along those lines, for myself and for a lot of people I talk to, they kind of feel like as they're getting older, things are starting to go wrong. I feel like, okay, well, life is limited and I'm not able to do as much as I used to and all that kind of thing. And then when they change the way they're eating, suddenly it feels like, um, anything's possible now. I can get out there, I can do things, and the future's just opened up so much. Suddenly I was thinking about, well, I'm gonna have to think about the future in more serious ways now, but it's more like anything's possible. I can start thinking about what my next goal is and that kind of thing. How do you feel about that?
Well, in some ways, I feel like real life has just started. I'm going for 130. That's how I feel. um, yeah, I
That's
don't.
awesome.
It's hard to explain it in words. Um, I'm very passionate about this lifestyle. Um, it's hard to put in words.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so you know, there's definitely no going back for you then, it sounds like.
No, no.
Mm.
I'm saddened with my those of my family and loved ones. They don't see it like I do, and I understand that, and I can accept that. But it hurts to see family members suffering from super carb meals, and but it's hard to change. I understand that. We've been brainwashed, as you have said, even in you know, in your latest podcast. We've been brainwashed, and the subconscious is not an easy part of the mind to change, and that's what controls 95% of our day. And so that's the hard part for a lot of people. And I would just encourage people to give it a shot.
Yeah. So, are you when you're buying your food, are you shopping just at the grocery store? And does it kind of make you feel a little bit depressed when you see people walking around with the carts full of boxes?
Every time I go in the store, I'm thinking to myself, look at all this crap. Yeah, I was just at the grocery store Monday, and I started looking in the grocery carts. And every once in a while, I'll come across someone who's got a similar lifestyle, but no, most of them have the prepared foods, the high sugar foods, all of this stuff they told us was good for us. And now we're finding out it is not. Latest study I have found is the Harvard study, where they basically took the food pyramid and put it upside down. And I thought, well, maybe there's hope. Maybe there's hope.
Yeah. So, the thing that I kind of feel when I go into the supermarket and I see that is, you know, it's, everyone's free to decide what they want to eat, whatever, but they're not really exercising their free will because no one is educating them about the problems with the kind of foods that they're eating when they're having the instant noodles or they're having the colorful boxed cereal and all this kind of thing, that says no cholesterol on the front or whatever. They think they're doing the right thing because no one's
Yeah.
educating them properly. So it's hard for them to actually be exercising their free will when they don't know that what they're being led down the garden path.
It is a type of slavery. When you go into the store and you pick up a box that says keto, and I look at the ingredients and I look at the nutrients and I say, this is no way in hell is it keto. It's no difference. And then they say no sugar. And there's maltose or dextrose or there's something else that I don't know about where you're from, but we're here in the United States, they can get away with that. They lie about it. So yeah, it is actually a type of slavery. But when we get to the point where we're ready to educate ourselves, we can make the changes. So my diet, I usually go out and I usually get $100 or $120 chunk of meat. Recently, it's been the chuck roll. The prices are decent. I'm paying $4 and $5 a pound for it instead of 10 and 12 and $20 a pound for it. And I bring it home and I cut it up myself and I put it in the freezer, and it just bring them out, and $120 with a few chickens now and then will last me between a month and 2 months. Probably as I become more and more carnivore, it'll last me more like a month. But it's actually no more expensive to eat a carnivore diet than it is to eat a junk diet. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the difference is you probably end up saving money just from the fact that you're not constantly thinking, what am I going to eat next? What am I going to eat next? That food, that need for thinking about putting food into your mouth just calms down completely, right?
I'm a pretty easy eater too. I don't get bored easy with my food. It's eggs and hamburger, eggs and steak for breakfast every day. I'm not tired of it. I don't see myself getting tired of it. In the evenings, it's steak. Sometimes I'll add chicken, like I said. I don't have a problem with it. I do still, and I'm sure this is subconscious, I still get a sweet tooth now and then. I will use erythritol. It's about and monk fruit. Those are about the only two I will use because the others are not keto in my mind. And I'll use whipping cream, which is zero carbs, with strawberries or blueberries occasionally, not every day. I try to count my carbs with that, keep them under 20 for the day. And so, and that satiates me with the sweet end of things. But I've been eating sweets for 70 years. It's hard to give up sometimes. My go-to non-carnivore food is peanuts as well. I will use peanuts to satiate my cravings if I need something. I'm thinking I need more fat, and the idea of buying a whole chuck roll gives me more fat instead of them trimming it at the butcher. So that's where I am now. I've got a ways to go. I can see myself turning totally carnivore, but it's going to take a little time.
Yeah. So, if a friend expressed interest in doing this, what advice would you give them to maximize their chances of success?
I would say start out slow. Some of us can handle a change cold turkey. I was not one of them. So start out slow and start changing your diet lifestyle slowly, knocking out the sugars and the sweets, and then proceed from that to the prepared foods and go for more natural foods, and just take a slow progression at it. I think some people would have a better chance of succeeding that way. And just start incorporating, steak and eggs for breakfast, hamburger and eggs. And there's a number of different ways to have hamburger and eggs. There's a number of different ways to have steak and eggs. You can mix it up a little. And I'm not the type to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. If I can't prepare a meal in 15 minutes, it ain't going to happen. So, it's simple foods. Then they can get to a point where they can decide, do they want keto or do they want carnivore? I did well with dirty keto and then going into a low carb keto. And how many carbs have I had today? Well, the only carbs are in the eggs, so 1.6 grams of carbs if you count what's in the eggs. And I usually don't count the eggs. I haven't had any carbs today. So sometimes it's very low carb, sometimes it's a little more. I'm not so religious about it that I don't have a little bit of flexibility, and I think that is key for some of us to keeping on it. You can still stay in ketosis, you can still stay fat adapted, and be a little loose. The trouble is if you start using that as an excuse and you wander off too much, you don't want to do that. So I try to stay with 20 grams of carbs when I'm visiting family. I have to let it go for a while, and then I suffer for a few days when I get back home. But it just takes a few days to to not feel drugged down a little bit. So that would be my advice to someone starting: is start out slow and just know what your goal is.
Nice. So Paul, is there any way that people can reach out to you? Do you have any social media or any other way of getting in contact?
I've only got one real good email. Yeah, I can just give that out.
No worries. I'll include your email in the show notes. Paul, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story today. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate sharing it.